Welcome to the MMHP in the 989. Channeling all styles and eras of Michigan music history from the city by the bay. And now, here's your host, Scott Baker.
We're in Studio 163 here in Essexville. We got a gang inside our little podcast studio today. And it's one of the nicest days, if not the nicest day of the year so far, almost 90 degrees here in early May. And I want to say hi over to Dr. J. How's things going, Doctor? What's new?
Going well.
Yeah.
Big show at the museum tomorrow with Dennis Lawrence. Real excited about that one, I'll tell you.
Oh, man.
Dennis has got quite a few stories.
This is going to be great.
And that, his PowerPoint that he sent me is, I don't want to promote drugs, but this one would be gummy worthy to go in and see this. I'm telling you, it's something else.
Fred just bought a ticket.
Right.
How you doing, Sir Fred?
I'm doing great.
Good. You got all your pals here. I'm going to let you run kind of the show tonight. Mike Beatty's in the house. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great.
Fred, why don't you introduce our special guest since it's your old bandmates? Give it to us.
Okay. Over to my immediate left. Yeah, I guess left. Tom Jurgens, known as Jigger. Next to him is Mike Jahncke. And over there is John Gilmour.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Some of these guys came from around the states to be here today, so we had a special date set up for these cats, and we want to thank you guys for your music history here in Michigan, and we are thankful that you can all make it together to talk on the show. This is such a great opportunity.
We're thankful we can be here.
That's right. The alternative isn't that great.
No.
You know?
Right.
Well, if you heard our booking average and how things went down, you might not have wanted to get booked because we've had 3 guys on here and 3 incidents happened. So, yeah.
The curse.
The
of
curse.
Michigan rock and roll legends.
Unreal.
podcast.
Well, the rock and roll people are 60, 70 years old. So
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
That's right.
The younger ones, yeah.
Well, we got a lot of history with Fred through the years.
How far back are we talking here?
Well, with Fred, we met in '67.
Right.
So 55 years later.
This is John talking right now.
Yeah, and Jigger, the 3 of us. My uncle, who was just 2 years older than me, and I wanted to put together a Jug Band, and this was back at that time, and coming out of the folky music days.
And this is in Bay City?
We were actually living in Bridgeport.
Bridgeport,
Yeah,
okay.
when we did that.
Okay.
But my uncle knew Fred from.
We went to Saginaw Business Institute.
Yeah. And so anyway, we put this together, and Jigger and I had been playing music already for a couple of years. We actually had already done recording down at United Sound in Detroit, and played at folk things. And was that after? Yeah, we played Daniel's Den before that, and played Daniel's Den's different venues. We played in Lansing and played Alpena, and with a folk oriented thing called Jonathan. And
What year?
well, 66
6?
for sure, maybe late 65, I think, probably.
Were you guys inspired by any particular jug band, like Jim Queskin or
Queskin.
Love and Spoonful, something like that?
Queskin was definitely the main one.
That's something you don't normally hear in our area is Jug Band. So that's probably pretty unique.
Yeah.
Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. They were a jug band.
Yeah,
that's
that's
how
how
they
it started.
started.
And what was the name of your jug band, John?
Well, thanks, Mike, for it.
We were the original low-class, half-fast Jug and Blues Band.
Wonderful.
Half-fast, that is.
Yeah, say it fast.
Half-fast.
That's perfect.
And we played a lot, didn't we? We played all over the place and had a great time. And that's how, anyway, we got connected. And Fred, we came to the first little practice session, and I had an old washboard. I put a bunch of junk on it that you could use and handed it to Fred and said, "You're the washboard player."
You changed his life.
Well, and then
55 years later.
Yeah.
That's where it started.
and then I gave him some old blues albums because I was real into old blues at that point myself. As far as playing, I'd learned to play slide and all that kind of stuff. And so I gave you probably remember what albums they were even, but
Not really.
Yeah, it was some old folkways kind of recordings that, the real stuff. And he came back the next, I say this, he came back to the next time we got together, next session, and he was like lit. I mean, it's like he had a new dream.
Well, it's still going.
I know.
That's
so
incredible.
Awesome.
Got out of the men's clothing business.
That's right. He was.
Yeah.
I remember because first time I met him, he showed up. You had yellow pants and a Madras shirt. And I thought,
Wow.
I know. Hard to picture that now, isn't it? Wow. Remember that?
No.
Yeah. He's repressed it.
You didn't bring
Sir
any
Fred,
photos with you, did you?
Fashion plate.
I got pictures that could incriminate all of us.
Oh, well, we're going to have to use those because we got a couple months away from this broadcast, so please
Now,
give them
did you
to us.
record the 45 with Fred?
No. Jigger and I did that, but but then but we played with the Jug Band all over. Played Bay City here, a bunch of places. And
So how did it come that you recorded the 45? And did you pay for this session yourselves?
No, the 45 got paid by my grandmother had a lawyer friend who was flush, and I remember it was $300 for the session, and he gave us the $300.
United Sound.
Yeah, United Sound. Noise.
Really?
Yeah. And so we went down and we had no idea what we were doing, but we made an A side and a B side and had it pressed.
Didn't do anything with it.
Yeah,
other than-
yeah.
Do you remember who worked with you on it?
Yeah, Danny Dallas.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because
okay.
we had Danny, he ended up doing the Gilmour Brothers albums, the
Right.
two ones we did
Right.
there, and we did one with when we went down with Leach with the group Saginaw, Mike and I, and Danny Dallas was the engineer on that.
Yeah,
one, too.
well-known figure, definitely.
Yeah, we were old buddies with him after a while. He was a character.
Do you guys find your 45 on eBay at all, ever, or anything? Or?
Well, the Zoo one, we seen that.
That's
In fact,
the one
I
that
got
shows up.
Yeah.
I think I still got a box of ours somewhere.
Hang on to them. You know, the last time I saw it, it was selling in France for, it was $280.
Land
Which
Rover.
one? The Zoo?
Yeah,
No,
444.
Right.
Well, I'm talking about Jonathan and Jigger.
Oh no, that one's never.
Well, I tell you what, there are collectors of those kind of records from Michigan.
Really?
Like I sold our record,
Can you hook me
John
up?
Kohut record.
Oh yeah.
Just go on eBay
Yeah.
or Discogs. That's where I sell most of them.
I love it. Fred will tell us these stories leading up to the episodes. You guys want to know how much I sold our record for? And then we get to the episode. We sold our record. I don't want to tell you guys how much it went for, but that guy's the king over
No,
there.
but the guy who bought it was he worked for Jack White,
yeah,
down
sure.
in
Oh, yeah.
Detroit,
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
and he collects Michigan
Oh yeah.
Stuff.
obscure labels.
Well,
Oh yeah.
And anyways, I got $25 for him.
That's cool.
I couldn't.
Well, I saw 444 on eBay, and it was under. This was in Europe, and I've seen it twice in Europe.
Yeah,
and it was under what they call it, Michigan metal. Was the subject?
Wow.
Michigan metal.
Yeah. So there's some Europeans.
That had to be because of the metal washboard at the time.
No, that was a different. That was a rock and roll.
No, this is heavy blues. That was the Zoo. Yeah.
I see you guys played opening night at the Ginger Blue.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, that in fact, because of us playing the dance stuff, I got a call from Mary Ellen Katie, and she may have however she knew, and she asked me if I'd come and help her. And so I actually worked on painting the place and getting the whole thing ready, and she kind of semi-adopted me for a while there, but. The Jug Band played there, and Jigger and I played the night it opened. And we might have played the night Joni Mitchell was there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you whether or not you were there when Joni Mitchell
sure.
played at the Ginger Blue.
Oh yeah, we were there. I was there all the time because
And we played there quite often.
at fixtures. And Mike and I played there later with the group we called Saginaw that also did a recording in United Sound. Yeah, we had quite a history with.
Mary Ellen Katie hooked you up with Cher, right?
That's right. That was her idea too, and we traveled around. In fact, she took us to Cleveland to play at the big whatever the big folk club at the time was in Cleveland with just her and I and Cher. Yeah, Cher and I. She was
Cher Shambo.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
who was great.
Yep,
You know.
yep.
Is Mary Ellen Katie still around?
No.
No, I think we lost her not too long ago.
How long did the Ginger Blues stay in operation?
That's a good question. Do you know, Fred? It was years. I mean, it was around quite a while.
From the mid to the
Mid?
1970s.
Yeah.
Early 70s.
Yeah.
I lost track of the Blue after the Saginaw played there because I just didn't have any connection with it anymore after that. And
Yeah.
I remember I
Saginaw
took Larry
played.
Gunter there.
Yeah.
And Mary Ellen was selling, at that time, water beds
Yeah. Oh, she was. Okay. Yeah,
in the front. And
yeah.
Larry, who was Arthur Gunter's brother, Arthur didn't show up for the blues festival, so he sent his brother Larry. And after the show, I took him over to the Ginger Blue, and he started jumping on the water beds with his shoes.
As a memory.
Oh, I can picture it. Mary Ellen's hollering, "Get him out of here! Get him out of here!"
No, there was a lot of neat stuff happened there though over the years. You know, because Chuck Mitchell, when Joni came, they actually were still married.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But they weren't a unit. I don't think.
Okay,
'Cause
they
had
didn't
lived-
play together?
No, but he played there a lot of times. We knew him real well. He taught me a lot of licks, actually, especially ragtime kind of picking and stuff.
Did you ever go back to their house that they had there in Detroit?
No, I never did. I know they had an apartment there.
Yeah, there's photos always popping up on Michigan Memories about that.
Yeah, no, that's the only. I saw her play a lot of different places. Saw her in Canada and stuff. But I remember this. You probably too, Jigger. That when she came in, it was like, whoa. It was. She really had an impact, didn't she?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
She really did. And then her guitar style, you just didn't see women play like that.
Right.
Especially the open tunings that much, you know. So it was impressive to see what she did for sure.
There's that great picture in Laurel Canyon of Eric Clapton sitting on the lawn and staring at her hands.
Yeah.
You know?
That is a cool picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was something else.
Yeah. I mean, I knew about open tunings, but I never saw anybody do what she did with them. That was very unique. Besides, she was very striking, just a different looking person.
Did you talk to her at all?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Would you guys did you jam at all?
In
Or
fact,
no?
her first album had just come out. It wasn't even known yet.
I missed that show for some reason. I mean, I was at the Ginger Blue all the time.
Yeah, right.
Myself. And
Well, that one picture of the Jug Band that we used all the time was taken upstairs.
Right.
Right. We were sitting in the bathtub.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Gives you an idea of the kind of group it was.
That's cool.
We had a low bar.
well, tell them about the when we played at Daniel's Den in Houghton Lake.
I don't remember. Oh, was that at Daniel's Den we played?
Yeah.
Well, that was I remember because it was Memorial Weekend,
Right.
and Fred and I and another guy, we were up there for the weekend, kind of, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And it was one night we were playing. I think we were playing Sunday afternoon, was it?
I think so. Yeah.
And Saturday night, as young men will do, we were riding around, and Fred and the other guy had a bottle of booze.
Well, I was in the middle. I wasn't driving.
You didn't want to.
Well, I wouldn't have had anything
He's
to do.
still trying to beat the rap.
You had to pass it back and forth, right?
This is bad, though.
I'm sure the police understood, Fred, you know.
No.
Well, so what happened?
Let him finish.
We were driving. This is how I remember it. You know, the funny part was I was still in high school.
No.
We were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a senior, and this is on a weekend, that Memorial Weekend, right? You're supposed to graduate in another week or whatever.
And Fred looked like that still back then?
Yeah.
Kind of. I could show you pictures. I don't have access anymore to the mugshots, but you think I'm kidding? But anyway, we were riding. What I remember is all of a sudden seeing the reflection of the flashing lights of a cop car in the, and going, what? And anyway, this cop pulled us over. This was up in
Roscommon.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there was a bottle of booze sitting down probably between Fred's legs, I imagine.
Well, I was in the middle.
Yeah, okay.
And anyway, arrested us and took us to jail.
For disorderly conduct.
That was drunk and disorderly. But they took our picture with the numbers under us. It was just like in the movies, you know. And I had a few drinks, so I was pretty loose. And unfortunately for Fred, he was quite sober. It would have been better if he hadn't been. But they took us in, and it was like midnight, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah.
And they did a kind of a kangaroo court right on the spot. The judge came in, and right. But the funny part, what you're probably thinking of, was when we were waiting. They put us in the judge's office, and left us.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I got a little sick.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do, so I went over and took care of it in the judge's wastebasket. Yeah. And then covered up with some
forgot
papers.
about that part.
He was really traumatized because he was afraid they were going to put us away forever, you know, because we didn't know what to expect. And then the judge comes in a couple minutes later, and he's got the bottle of whatever it was. And remember, we're the original low-class, half-assed Jug and Blues Band, right? This is the part I remember that was the funniest, because I was a little bit drunk. He takes the bottle and he hits it on the desk and looks at us and goes, "Is this your jug of booze?" And Fred leans over me and grabs my shoulder and says, "Did he say Jug and Blues?" True story.
Yeah.
He thought that was going to make it even worse somehow, you know.
That is great.
But anyway, what was kind of a little bit frightening about it, the sentence was 30 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And so they locked us up.
And you had a gig.
We had a gig the next day.
And the dilemma was we had to figure out how we were going to get him out.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any money.
Yeah.
So we're walking up and down the beach panhandling.
So just him who was in jail? Those two.
Me and
Just
Fred,
the two.
we were in the cell together.
Okay.
And so we're trying to figure
With a
out.
motorcycle gang.
Well, yeah, that came later. That was really scary when they.
So we're up and down the beach panhandling from strangers, trying to raise money, and we got enough money to get one of them out. And so
Not me.
So we said, okay, did we get the washboard player out or the lead singer?
Yeah.
There's the choice right there.
So
And this is the next day.
this is the next
We
day.
spent
Spent my whole life like that.
Sorry, Fred.
You should-
No respect.
This is getting better and better.
we spent the night there. That
Yeah,
was
you spent the night. And then
that
the
was
next
quite an
day,
experience.
The next day they came to get you guys. And they walked up. Didn't they say something like, all right, come on, you bailed out. You got up. And he said, no, you stay. Something like that.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
but I have this image in my mind. I can still see it when I think about it. Me walking out of the cells, looking back, and they had those steel bunk beds, and Fred was sitting up on the top bunk because I left. He was all by himself reading the Bible.
Looking at it.
Oh my Lord. This is great. Oh my gosh.
But
This is
then-
in Roscommon?
Roscommon County Jail. Yeah, yeah.
I gotta find
How
those
did you
movies.
eventually get Fred out?
Well, then this was great too. Remember, because somebody got the money and we got
I
him
think
out.
Dave Brushaber.
Yeah, and we got us to the gig just in time, literally just in time. And the announcer heard about all this and introduced us as being direct from the Roscommon County Jail.
Wow.
And he wasn't kidding. I mean, it was-
Oh man, that's unreal.
that was the Jug Band, so give you an idea.
Whew. What a tour.
And then downstairs, Question Mark and the Mysterians were going to start playing.
Yeah.
So
That was that show? That
Yeah.
was that show you've talked about before.
Yeah. So everyone from upstairs where we were
Yeah,
playing
we had a good crowd.
went downstairs.
Yeah, they just
Oh
went
my
too-
gosh. Fred's mentioned that show 2 or 3 times on here. Never mentioned the pre-story to it, but now, you know.
And that's not the only time that John ever crossed paths with Question Mark and Mysterians.
Yeah, I met him first time at the Bay City roller rink.
Battle of the Bands.
Before that,
Oh, okay.
a couple of years before that, at least.
With the Jug Band?
No, this is
No.
before the Jug Band. I played with a couple Bay City guys. I wish I could remember their names. And A guy named Chet Kozak, a great drummer, who used to sit in all the time for the Bossmen back then. But he was another Bridgeport guy, and he came. I was really young. I was like 16 or 15 even, I think, when we started. And we played Band Canyon when it was new. But anyway, we were entered in the Royal Air Rink Battle of the Bands, and it did great, and it had a big crowd. And then Question Mark showed up in a whole bunch of cars at the same time, because that was done by applause. So we thought we got this nailed, and then all of a sudden all these cars came.
Oh, jeez. Entourage.
It wasn't even close.
Oh, man.
What was the name of that band?
The Mirage Finders.
Wow.
Yeah, I wish I could think of the guitar player's name. I bet you'd know him. He's a Bay City guy. And one of them was Gary Lefkiadis, who played, and the other, I can't think of that fellow's name, but it was fun. Especially for me, I was young and, just to have the experience.
Wow, did you sang in that band too?
Yeah, that's mostly what I did.
Was this before the Others Brothers?
No, the Others Brothers go way back. That's the first thing I did. Yeah.
Because I saw you and Mike at
You did?
yeah, at the YMCA.
Really? Yeah, well, because this is going...
Go-Go.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is way back, because the uncle I mentioned that started the Jug Band. Before that, he and I started playing it, and this was in the hootenanny days. When folk was real big, and especially all the Catholic schools always had big hootenannies, and we played at all those. And remember, played the Saginaw Fair. We played one of the very first Bavarian festivals too. That was a new thing then, with them. But what was it? You saw us at the Y, huh?
Yeah, because I thought, wow, they're just like the Smothers Brothers.
Yeah, we were a copy of the comedy thing. But that's Jigger and I started playing about that same time.
Yeah.
One thing led to another, and then after that, what I'm trying to think what the next thing was. But
the Zoo was the same time as the Jug Band, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's some overlap there. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Jug Band, and the Jonathan and Jigger thing was overlapped. The Jug Band overlapped into that.
Yeah.
We just kind of went from one format to the next.
Yeah. But the Zoo was heavy blues oriented band. It was totally different. And that we recorded 3 singles with. One of the ones Mike wrote was number 1 on WSAM here in mid Michigan, so that was fun. And we got hooked up with Jim Leach, who did promotions, and we recorded. I think we recorded in Grand Rapids. I can't remember where we were.
I think it was, at least initially.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been Sparta, the Great Lakes recording studio?
I bet it was.
It could have been.
Yep, I bet that's right.
Would have been in a movie theater?
No, it
didn't
wasn't.
seem like it.
But
Seemed
that
like a
name
real
sounds
studio.
right. I bet that's
Sparta
right.
does sound familiar.
Yeah.
But,
It was fun. I remember the one time
Leach it, though.
he had the idea. We took Prudy DiMercurio, who wrote a newspaper thing every week on the bands.
Digging the jams with Prudy.
Yeah.
I forgot about her.
Yeah, well, she came with us to record. I think it was your
Walking
song.
in the country, and
Walking-
she sang on that in the chorus.
Yeah, because we had the end chorus where everybody sang in the end, and her and some of her friends, which was a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Because she was on the record.
What paper did she write for?
Saginaw News.
Really?
Yeah.
So she took over from Deb and Joe. Kind of that. Deb and
same
Joe
era, right?
wrote till 1968. That would have been when they graduated from high school. So it would have been about June 1968.
That's about the right timing.
Because we were 69, I think.
Yeah, so she would have picked up that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. That the Saginaw News did a lot of coverage of local bands and so on.
What was her name of her thing?
cool.
Digging the Jams or
Prudy DiMercurio.
Yeah, but the
Digging the jams with Prudy.
Digging the Jams. Okay.
So did she do this on the weekend? Did her column come out like on the weekends or?
I think so. I mean, we were
Sundays.
featured a couple times.
Yeah.
That one time they did because we kind of diversified and we're doing more jazz-like stuff, and she did a thing about that. Remember?
Yeah,
It seemed like we
I
had
still have that article.
Yeah,
like we had
it was a big half
Yeah.
page.
we had a few pieces that she did. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Check that
Now,
out.
did you go with Jim? When I interviewed him a couple times for my website, and he talked about getting his records pressed in Owasso at American Record Pressing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you guys ever go with him to pick up 45s or anything?
I was there
I
once.
didn't.
Yeah, watched them pressing. It was really
Wow. Okay.
I remember that.
They didn't invite me.
No, back then, I mean, that stuff was just happening. I mean, it's just, oh, okay, we recorded, and then now it's on the radio. I didn't know how it happened.
Well, it's pretty neat to have a 45 out, especially if you get radio play.
That was.
And you had a number one, he said? So what?
For 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks. What was the song?
It was called Walking in the Country.
Walking in the Country by the Zoo?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mike wrote that one.
Yeah.
But we did 2 others that were regular airplay.
Yeah, the first one we did was Sea Cruise, which was a cover. And, we're still wondering about that. And then the second one we did was Walking in the Country. And that did pretty well locally. And then after that, we did 444. And it was such a, a dramatic change for us musically. John and I were just talking about it today, that his vision when the zoo got started was that he had already been doing blues style music in a folk sense, acoustically. Mm-hmm. And John's vision was to kind of take it to a rock band format.
Yeah, and that's what Jigger and I talked about.
And do blues in a more rock band with, bass and drums and that whole thing. And where I came on board was my mom called John and had him give me guitar lessons when I was about 16. And I was still in high school. And so John gave me guitar lessons for a while. And I got real fanatical about playing and, trying to do stuff and practicing and writing music, and I locked myself away in my bedroom for an entire summer just to try and get better. And I made these tapes of stuff that I was writing, and John was my only connection to anything. And so I called him up and I said, "Can I give you this tape to listen to and tell me what you think?" Mm-hmm. So the next thing I know is John calls me and he says, "Well, could you come and play with me at the Ginger Blue?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And it just kind of, I remember for a few days I was terror struck because it was like I'd never done anything. And I'm, he's talking about going out in front of people and playing, And then he called me up short time later and said, "Well, that's canceled, so that's not happening." And I was kind of happy and sad at the same time. But then he said, "Can you meet me and another guy down at the Wagon Wheel?" And there used to be a restaurant called the Wagon Wheel right in Bridgeport, which was our major coffee hangout. Mm-hmm. So when I got to I said, "Sure." So I got to the Wagon Wheel, and John was there with Tom, sitting at a table, and that's where we hatched the zoo.
Oh, wow.
And they talked about putting this band together, and that's where we hatched it. And I would have still been...
You were in high school.
High school.
Senior, I think.
Really? Senior maybe in high school.
Wow,
yeah, still in school.
We played. We didn't even call it the zoo yet.
No.
That's another story. But
yeah.
And then we...
Yeah, go ahead.
We practiced in Tom's basement until we had enough numbers together before we invited a drummer, because drummers get bored real quick. So you got to wait, you got to have your act together before you bring them on board. And Tom and John knew a guy named Rick Miller, who in my opinion was one of the underrated drummers of the early Michigan rock music scene. Rick
passed away now.
Rick was good. And he joined us, and then eventually we also added Wolfgang Schwartz on keyboard. And our practice place for the whole time we were together was Tom's basement.
Yeah.
In Bridgeport.
Truly a basement band.
But it was fun playing. We did
some cool things.
Yeah, we did Van Cannon, just us and
Amboy
Nugent
Dukes.
and Amboy Dukes. That was a fun one. We had a lot of...
Yeah, and we were with Grand Funk at Saginaw Auditorium.
Yeah, with the Frost and others. Yeah, Frigid Pink was at that. I forget. There was...
That was Grand Funk at the time, or was it Terry Knight in the Pack?
Grand Funk.
Really?
Well,
Terry Knight played in our high school cafeteria.
Could have been the Pack.
Terry Knight and the Pack did.
It was the Pack, I think. at that time.
Without,
Yeah,
you
there you
know,
go.
they were the Pack for,
Right.
I don't know, a year or,
Yeah.
or more. Yeah, at least a year. Probably
But when
a
we
little more.
played Saginaw Auditorium, it was Grand Funk Railroad, I think.
Was it? Oh,
I
okay.
think so.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I think so.
But I think the Rationals, it was a bunch of the well-known.
Brownsville Station, maybe?
Yeah.
Man, that
Brownsville
show would be
Station.
so cool to have a copy of that show.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, talk about
Well, it's a
everybody
good
going
venue, that old second auditorium. They had some great shows there. Now, you guys recorded a single at Daniel's Den.
Yep. That
Yeah.
was 444.
Yeah, that was the only thing. ever-
Live. And released it live, the live recording.
How did you record it?
Eddie
Was
Kurth.
soundboard?
Fast Eddie.
That's Eddie Kurth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he had the recording all set up, all the equipment, right in front of the stage, and he recorded a bunch of things of ours that night, but the tapes got lost somewhere, and but the only thing we were able to recover was 444, and then Rico's Jam, which is on the back, the flip side of 444.
All right, so the kids were there and everything?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, it was packed house. Yeah.
Was Frank Patrick still running the show then? Or?
Yes.
Yeah, we knew Frank Rowe because he
Okay.
actually helped us. He did a deal for us to get Sun equipment.
Yeah,
He had
Sun
all
equipment, yeah.
Sun
You were,
Sun sound system because he was connected with the Kingsman, one of the guys that started
Mhm.
Sun. You know. Yeah.
She had an endorsement going.
Yeah, we got to know him real well way before that with Jonathan.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that was in '66. I know it was in February '66 because I saw a poster of it. Then we played, and after we played, because we were doing folk stuff, you know, folk rock kind of thing, and it really went over real well. And he right after the show, that's when he said, would you guys be willing to play my other venues? And he used us for a bunch of stuff, and he remained a good friend for 3-4 years there during that time.
Nice man.
Yeah,
Yes.
he
Yeah.
was really nice to us.
How did the group turn into Saginaw?
Well, it wasn't the group. That was just Mike and I kept doing some stuff, and Ben.
Oh,
It was
yeah,
the three of
right.
us, and it was more of a, Crosby, Stills, and Nash sort of a, thing. And we did one record with that too.
Yeah,
that you
we
guys
kinda
wrote
went-
it. It's really good.
We went back to acoustic, and it was a trio, John and I and Ben List, and then we did one recording.
And that was a
Um,
United Sound too.
Yeah, and we played the Blue, and then we got as far away as we played the Raven Gallery down in Detroit. That was an interesting gig. And then that lasted, just as long as it did, and that was it. In fact, the recording that we made, Prayer, Jim Leach always says that's one of the of Jim Leach's greatest hits. The CD that he did.
Yes.
He said he gets still gets a lot of good comments on that particular song.
Yeah.
Prayer.
Yeah, and at that point, that we had that adventure down in Chicago where you were going to sing over one of the old. You can tell.
That's right. Jim took us down to Chicago, and I don't even know why John and Ben came along, because they didn't do anything. He was just getting me down there to try and reconstitute "They Don't Come" by Jerry Slush. And the studio that we went down there to, I can't remember the name of the studio. It was a major.
Yeah, it was the ABC
label.
Dunhill guys.
Jim Golden, I remember, was the
Yep.
producer, and they were running Shaka Khan and Stone Crows, and they had their
Buckingham's,
posters
yeah.
up in the hallway when we walked in. And they took me into the sound booth and tried to get me to sing "They Don't Come," and I must have sang it 15 times, but it was one of those situations where they had the track, and you had to match the track. They weren't going to do the track over. They weren't going to change it. There
Well,
wasn't
they had
any
the-
auto-tune back then.
Yeah, they had the Chicago Symphony Orchestra or
It was-
something playing on
That
yeah.
was the
That's right.
track. And it was up there. Not that I couldn't sing high back in the day, but something about it didn't work for me, and we eventually just said, we're out of here.
Yeah.
We're not doing this.
And not long after that, we just started, because they were talking a tour and all kinds of stuff if we wanted to get signed. But
Yeah,
then
looking back, I mean, I'm kind of glad I didn't have to sing "They Don't Come" for 18 months on the road.
That high.
Yeah, that's one of the great lost tracks,
Yeah.
really. That was an outstanding
It was
record.
nice. Yeah.
That's right.
That Cherry Slush did it. And kind of got lost in the shuffle of
Yeah.
That
Jim
record label falling apart or screwing him over.
Jim tried to bring it back to life, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And
Wasn't meant to be.
We were kind of done at that point because then I took off. I moved to New York City in that winter, and then
I went back to college.
And you
became
went
a band director.
he went to become a band director, and Mike.
So are we talking about the early 70s?
Yeah,
now?
70. I went to New York in the winter of 71. So yeah.
Right, because I met you in England in 72.
72 was when we met.
We're about to the fadeaways.
Yeah, so Mike started playing with the.
That's when the fadeaways started.
That's when the fadeaways started.
My favorite rock and roll band at that time.
They were great. Man.
John took off for New Mexico to go chase after his sweetie, and we just kind of busted the Saginaw thing up, and I was just at home like bouncing off the walls with my mom and dad and my sister, and Jim List called me and asked me if I was interested in kind of checking out a band and maybe getting involved in something. Now, Jim List had been a part of the Bed of Roses.
Okay.
And his brother Ben had been with John and I in Saginaw. So that's where this connection was. And I knew Jim from the Bed of Roses, and I really looked up to those guys. I thought they were, when I was a kid in high school, they were a pretty hot band. They could do the Birds like nobody.
Well, they recorded at Sparta. They've got a single out that they did with Dave Kalmbach at Sparta Records, Great Lakes Recording Studio. Yeah, that's on that CD I gave you, Scott.
Yeah. I just listened to that again the other day.
Yeah.
So when Jim called me personally and said if I was interested in doing something, and I wasn't doing anything, so I said, well, yeah. So we went to a club where a band was playing, and Jim was playing in a band that was run by a guy named drummer by the name of Bill Harold, and it was Billy's band, and I can't remember honestly who else was in that band besides Jim and Bill. I mean, that's all I can remember. But all I know is that the people that were in the band that night were suddenly no longer in the band, and it was me and Jim and Ben, and Bill Harold was the new band. And Bill already had a gig set up at a roadhouse called the Cartwheel in Port Austin, up in the Thumb.
Yeah.
Which was the coolest gig ever. And we had to come up with a name for the band. I don't know what Bill had been calling it, but we came up with Billy Funk and the Fadeaways. And then one thing led to another, and Billy Funk was no longer in the band, and we got a different drummer by the name of Mike Jahncke, who had also spent some time, I think, in the Bed of Roses. Yeah. And then we were just the Fadeaways. And we were a good cover band. But that venue was like
it was like a movie set. It was. Yeah.
For one summer or a summer and a half, I mean, it was.
You were like the house band, is that?
We were the only.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
And I've told this to Mike Jahncke recently. I said, man, any band would have envied that gig that we had. Yeah, that was a good gig.
Wow!
There was even a write-up about that not too long ago, about the glory days of the Cartwheel.
Yeah, it was really something.
Rafters and
and all this overlaps when we worked at the Record Hut somehow too, and about the same time, right?
I think that was because you came back.
You came back and got the job at the Record Hut.
Oh, that's right. I came back,
and then I was still over there.
Oh yeah, because before this was the Lightning gig.
Yeah,
that's right.
The Lightning gig.
50 years later, I get to hear it now.
There it is. Yeah, so
that's cool.
I went to Europe and was bumming around with a friend, Rick Young, and ended up in Amsterdam, where my wife was, and so we were there, and just hanging out and living in Amsterdam, and I get a letter from Fred.
A letter.
Yeah.
It was American Express. I still got it, right? Saying, so this would have been early 72, so January 72.
Yeah.
And Lightning, you got the, whatever, however that happened, Lightning was going to tour over there.
5-week tour, and the first gig was in Coventry.
Coventry, England, yeah.
For the Coventry Music Fest or whatever
Yeah,
it was called.
Yeah, it was a big festival.
And Lightning does not have a harmonica player, and the British band doesn't. So meet me there, and you can play harp.
Yeah, he said, you want to come? And so
I never asked Lightning or anything.
Well, I played with him earlier
Oh, yeah,
summer
that's right,
at the
that's
house,
right.
so I knew him.
Oh, on
Right.
the porch.
Yeah, that's another
On the
story. I don't know
porch.
if we want to go there. But we didn't end up in jail, but somebody might have. I don't know. It was-
Yeah,
We got in the middle of a fight. It had nothing to do with
with
us.
a gun.
With a gun.
Ooh.
It was serious. That was exciting. The blues. That was the blues for real.
For living it.
It was. But anyway, so Deanna, my wife, and I made our way over to England from Amsterdam. I can't remember how we got there, but those were the days you just figured things out. And played the opening. Was that the opening night? Maybe.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
And it was a cool venue because Pink Floyd was on the bill and Chuck Berry and a bunch
Chuck
of big-
Berry released that song from that concert, My Ding-a-Ling.
Mm-hmm.
That live version, that's
From that
there.
show.
Up to their feet.
So that bill, you shared the bill with all them bands that night.
Yeah.
Well, it was a weekend
Yeah.
festival.
Oh, wow.
And you were managing Lightning
Lightning
Slim,
Slim.
at that time?
And another American Detroit blues guy that was on it was Eddie Burns.
Right.
So I met him, and when we came back to America, I was his manager.
Did you play too, Fred, at the time? Were
No.
you no, so you weren't sitting in on. Okay, not like you did with Lazy Lester. Okay.
Well, I did later with Lightning, but not that particular.
Okay.
But ironically, Deanna, the only thing I carried. Well, I went to Europe and spent half a year with one shirt and a little tape recorder. That's all I had. 6 months in the same pair of pants and one shirt. But because I taped different things, and Deanna happened to tape that set. So
That is
that's
so
what I
cool.
gave Fred.
Yeah.
It could be worked on, but it's good. I mean, it's there,
Oh, sweet.
that actual opening night thing. So it's kind
I
of
gotta hear that, Fred. That's can I put that one in the studio.
yeah.
Jigger, what were you doing during all this, man?
I was being a band director. I was band director at Buena Vista High School,
Oh,
and then taught 5th grade through 12th grade instrumental music, and I taught choir, and then and taught sociology at Buena Vista. And then back in the early 80s, I got laid off with all the other art teachers and music teachers back in those days. Everybody was cutting back. And so I went into sales for a while, and then I had an opportunity to go back and teaching again. So I went back and took some refresher courses to upgrade my certification, and I got a job teaching at my alma mater, Bridgeport. It came full circle and ended up in the same band room I had when I was in high school.
I'll be damned.
Wow.
And stayed there and retired from Bridgeport. And I taught choir and instrumental music, 5th grade through 12th grade, and choir and psychology and any other little thing they needed.
What was your last year playing with the guys before you hit the education?
69, 70.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the last band?
The Zoo.
The Zoo. That was your last time.
That was my last time with these guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Until just
Until the Gilmour Brothers reunion concerts.
yeah. Right.
Did you work with Jim Leach at Buena Vista? He
Yes,
taught
actually
there,
I
didn't
did. Yes,
Yeah.
actually I did. Yeah, he was a journalism teacher
Right.
when I started there. Yeah, yeah, he was there a couple of years when I was first there, and then he left and went off and did his thing, and I was there 5 years until I started laying everybody off. Back in '81, it was.
Yeah, art and music, the first thing to go.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
jeez. what a
By the
shame.
way, John,
Yeah.
someone asked not too long ago if, and I said, I think it was recorded, when Cher Shambo played with one of the Gilmour Brothers.
We've got part of that.
Oh yeah, on video.
Yeah.
It's on
She
video.
did the one song.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really great to see her
Yeah.
again.
That was super because, well, it was the last time we all saw her.
Yep.
Right.
When did you start working with Cher?
Well, that was Mary Ellen's idea back when Ginger Blue was pretty new. So it was, what year would that have been?
65, 64, 65, 66,
66.
65.
Yeah, I don't know, somewhere in there. I don't know. When the Ginger Blue was pretty new.
Right.
And I didn't know Cher, but Mary Ellen, Katie did, and she put us together, and she had this idea. And it was awesome. She was fun to perform with.
And what a dynamic voice.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just blew you away.
Yeah. And a character.
Yeah.
That's why whoever asked me was wondering, are there any recordings of her?
Just that, as far as
I
I'm
wish.
As far as I know, that's it then.
And
we
then
got
she
that.
hadn't played in 20 years or something.
Right.
Yeah, but
she
sounded
couldn't
great.
remember it, but
Yeah.
that's another.
Well, Fred was on when I first met Fred, not when I first met, but when he first came to Essexville, when we decided to put this together, she was on the original list that you wanted to invite on the show. And then we never did put the booking together. Otherwise, we'd have a fourth one on that, but we lost her along the way, too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was an experience performing with her because she was a character too.
Well, I remember going with you and her up north at some gig, and
Tawas or somewhere, I remember that.
she took, and so did I, something, and I don't know how she went in there. I don't know how you guys went in there and played,
Yeah.
but as soon as she did that Patsy Cline song, she had the audience in the palm
Oh
of her
yeah.
hand.
She did those old country songs and just
She
people
could.
falling out of their chairs, man.
She could rip it.
Yeah. No, we had a lot of fun. You and I had fun too with this is the Record Hut days when we got invited down to Detroit to
Alice Cooper's
Alice Cooper was
platinum
getting
party or something.
Yeah, he was well, he did a concert with the band, and then the party afterwards we got invited because we sold a lot of the Columbia, it wasn't a product or whatever label he was on at the time.
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers, yeah. And that was neat. We saw the concert, which was cool, but then they had this private party with him after. And
Flo and Eddie.
That's what I remember. We just hung out with Flo and Eddie all night, you know. But that whole scene, just to see that, what that was like, was kind of cool to see.
I bet. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I think
And he was
Dick
cool.
Wagner was there, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, I'm sure he was. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, also
Old Dick.
we met him. He was just this nice guy, just right. You know.
Yeah, he's always been nice. He's
Yeah.
always really careful with his audience and takes good care of everybody.
But that was the show where he cut his head off at the end with the guillotine.
Oh, that's right.
Man, that was weird.
That was
Remember
weird.
when they did? Because it was well done. It was like,
Yeah.
how did they do that, man?
Yeah. Sometimes he still brings that around too.
Yeah, I saw that tour as well.
Did you? Wasn't that
Oh
something?
yeah.
Was that you said that was a Love It to Death tour? I think was that, or was it the last Zappa album tour? No, that was
It was before
Warner Brothers.
$1 Billion Babies.
So probably.
Welcome to my
And
nightmare.
we had the big dentist drill, and
Oh, jeez.
So it's
you know,
either
just
Killer or
the
Love It
snake,
to
of
Death.
course,
Yeah.
was involved. Yeah, it was quite a show.
And that concludes part one with John Gilmour, Tom Jigger Jurgens, and Mike Jahncke, three of the legendary Gilmour Brothers, as well as many other bands, as you're finding out. And we'll be back here in 2 weeks with part two of the series. You're going to want to catch up with where they're at now and what's going on with the Gilmour Brothers in the future. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.
The MMHP is hosted on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and our own Libsyn podcast site. You can also search MMHP989 on Facebook for up-to-the-minute information, as well as both Dr. J and Sir Fred's album picks of the week, posted every weekend. You can connect with Scott on the web at scottbakermusic.com, Dr. J at michiganrockandrolllegends.com, Sir Fred at fredreif.com. Brought to you by Michigan Rock and Roll Legends, located both inside the Bay County Historical Museum on Washington Avenue, as well as Scotty's Sandbar on Evergreen Drive at the Bay City Middle Grounds.
On behalf of the hosts, Gary Dr. J. Johnson, Sir Fred Reif, archivist and videographer Mike Beatty, and myself, This podcast wouldn't be here without Studio 163's Alan Garcia, the voice of MMHP, Mr. Eddie Switek, all of our guests, and you, the listeners.
You've been listening to the MMHP and the 989. From all of us at the